Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
We choose unity over division. We choose science over fiction. We choose truth over facts.
It was a perfect soundbite for this next segment here.
Okay, go for it.
All right, Joe Rouse, welcome to the studio. Mic 1, Pete.
Oh, okay. There you go.
All right.
I'm on.
All right. So welcome to the studio. This is not the Joe Show.
Not the Joe Show.
Do not adjust your dial. Do not look at your calendars. This was the soonest Joe could get in here since the big Board of Health meeting last week.
Right. Yeah.
Where it was announced that the mask mandate was going to be rescinded immediately. And I know you guys have a meeting coming up to talk about the school one. But I want to go over a few things that came up during this whole mask mandate. And there might be some part truths, some non-truths, and we're going to get down to it. All right. And I'm comfortable getting the information from you because I know you're a reasonable, sensible person.
Thank you.
I've known you for years. I also know that you are not a voting member of that board. So that does make a little bit of a difference here. So here's one of the issues that came up.
Drum roll.
Yeah. No commercial. We're going straight up to the hour.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. The Board of Health does not have the authority to initiate or enforce a mandate.
Sure they do.
Okay.
Joe?
All right. So, I heard that a lot, and it's maddening. It really, really just pushed my buttons. Mm-hmm. Some people know how to do that. But it's true that there is a Mass General Law, Chapter 111, blah, blah, doesn't matter, that says boards of health are allowed to make reasonable health regulations. That's the language. Boom, done. Mm-hmm. That's it.
Who determines reasonable?
I guess it would be a judge. Mm-hmm. But I would think you'd have a hard time arguing with a judge that a mask mandate during a global pandemic is not reasonable. Mm-hmm. So there's that.
Okay.
But it is actually a law. And a lot of people said, it's not a state of emergency. You're not elected officials. You don't have this is totally illegal. And that's so flat out wrong. Mm-hmm. It's not even funny. I mean, we have a law department in this city. They're not going to let us do anything mm-hmm. that's a liability to the city. Plus, we have done this for years. We've made many reasonable health regulations. Mm-hmm. So whether they're enforceable or not, that was the other part. You can't enforce this. I said it mm-hmm. before the board voted. I said this is unenforceable. And mm-hmm. the perspective was, well, as long as it gets maybe 20% more people to wear a mask, then there we go. Mm-hmm.
So I actually watched that meeting, and Joe did say, we can't enforce it.
Can't. Didn't.
Yet now we have the people, okay, well, small businesses are getting fined $1,000 for a violation on this. Who was enforcing that?
Nobody fined anybody.
There was not one fine at all.
So when this all came out and I said to the inspectors, everybody in my office, if you get a complaint that somebody says, I'm at Walmart, nobody's wearing masks, here's my, as far as the local businesses doing the enforcement, my perspective is put a sign on the door. There you go. Mm-hmm. Mandate.
You give reasonable warning.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But you don't need to go around and kick people out. You can if you want. It's your private property. Do whatever you want.
Right.
But as far as us, we've had that before where we've had to patrol these businesses because of capacity limits.
Yeah, I had you on once a week at the beginning of this to cover all that.
It was a nightmare. So I get it. You want to put the mandate in, go ahead and do it. Our enforcement is to make sure that people at least advise their customers or whatever. Yeah, there's a mask mandate in Westfield. The mm-hmm. end. We're done. Nobody fined anybody. Mm-hmm. I got a lot of complaints from people. The
businesses are suffering.
No,
that was another issue.
No, come on. Business suffer from what?
The mask mandate.
Okay, well, you got to.
Well, that was out there.
It was out there.
I might be playing devil's advocate, or I might be repeating what I saw on social media. You'll never know.
Right.
But businesses are suffering.
Well, businesses, do they suffer because you have to wear pants? I mean, come on. What is this? Mm-hmm. So the other thing, some people say, come on.
All right.
From the guy who wears shorts all winter, Ken Stomsky.
Yeah. right.
But the argument was made, and I got emails about this, and we'll talk about emails in a second too, because it's there's a problem with communication in this world right now.
And you said communication. You said during the last meeting, only one of you out of everyone here right now even bothered to phone me and call me.
Yep.
And I know who that one person was.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It wasn't anyone on social media that was doing all the other preaching. I can say that
got turned around too, and that got all muddied. That wasn't what you said. I'll let you attack that, but that isn't what was said.
No, well, what the issue is that with the hundreds of ridiculous emails that I got, I don't communicate that way. I'm not going to go back and forth. An email in the midst of 150 of them is just that's not a communication. That's a notice. Here, if you get a letter from the IRS, are they expecting you to answer that? No, get it out there. There you go. So I read what you said, and most of it was wrong and based in whatever fantasy world. But I can't respond that way. If you want to have a discussion, you want to have a conversation, you want to learn something, call me. Mm-hmm. After I said that at the last meeting, still only one person ever called. People
Seriously?
were like, so because they just want to be heard, but they don't want to listen. That's the problem.
Mm-hmm. True. True.
Speaking of just wanting to be heard, you provided fake numbers in order to skew your decisions.
Yep. Right. Ridiculous.
There's another one.
By the way, I have never met a group of more misinformed people in my life. And
it's true.
You just want to hear what you want to hear. You read what you want to read. You go online. You're a keyboard warrior. And I got criticized for saying that too, but I don't care. No apologies.
Yeah,
it is.
I heard you say that during that meeting. You called these people keyboard warriors.
That's what they are.
Yeah.
And oftentimes they're just repeating something that they've seen on social media without verifying the information.
Right. So
well, I heard there'd be dinosaurs there.
Yeah, birds aren't real. Right? Do you hear of that group? You've heard of that group? Well, anyway.
And I also I've heard you say, I don't really want or need or want to see a mask mandate, but it really is up to the board. You had some input on that, but.
I was, and we'll talk about the numbers because you asked that question. The numbers are what they are. We get those through a state database that's entered. Any positive laboratory confirmed test goes into a database. It gets reported to the local communities, and you add that up, and that's a number, and it's real, and it's accurate, and nobody wanted to do this in the first place as far as the mask mandate goes. But one of the board members said, and I agree, when our numbers started to be in the 700, 800 range, you have to do something. And to that, I'll also say, we didn't make up 800 numbers. I mean, that can be 800 cases. That can be verified. It's there.
But there are a lot fewer deaths with this variant.
So I've heard. We had 1 week where there were 4, and we hadn't had that in a long time. So, but, when you talk about the board's decision, and I say this to people when they engage me in a conversation, what would you do if you were on the board of health or you worked in the health department, right? That's our job. You have to do something. You can't just sit here and go. I mean, we were.
Yeah, Stan works at Noble, and Karnas is up at Cooley Dick. I mean, they're in the hospitals.
They see it. They're the boots on the ground people. So, they base their decision on that and not on just that one metric of new confirmed cases. There was models going around through the state where it's projecting, we could go this way or we could go that way. You go with the predominant thing, what's happening now. It's all fluid, right? We say that all, and everything changes every day. But I still say, when you have 3 members of a board who have all been there for a long time, are medical professionals, you have people in our department that are infectious disease control people, science people, nurses. It's why don't you trust those people? Why do you pick right now to not trust those people? It's like saying, I don't trust a firefighter to know how to put out a fire. Come on, this is what we do. It's what we've been doing I've been there 24 years, and never once did I get questioned about my ability to do my job until now. And it's wrong. I don't know your job. I'm not going to tell you how to do your job. I'm not trained in that. I can't. I even bought one of those kits online to turn my VHS into DVD. I can't.
I mean, the first 6 months of this pandemic, you were on here at least every week, if not every other week, to update. And nobody, that the first 6 months when we were in the thick of it, nobody ever questioned you then.
Right. No, they were listening because, we had the science behind it. Everybody was scared. This was all new. You have to trust somebody. And we, again, get our information from our mother agencies, CDC, DPH, the people on our board, and every single day. I said in the beginning we were working 25/8, and it really felt like that.
Yeah,
I mean we were there every day for probably 12 hours minimum a day. So,
going along with the numbers, one that's more recent. You don't report information weekly.
not anymore.
Okay.
Yeah, I had to draw the line somewhere because once the home test started to be a lot more accessible and available, we weren't getting laboratory confirmed tests for new cases as an accurate number. So to put out a number that's not accurate is horribly misleading. That's what we were getting accused of before. You're putting out fake numbers to make your decisions how you want them. Okay, well then how about we don't put out any numbers? How about that?
All right.
You can go to the state website and figure it out.
Which doesn't take into consideration all the eye health tests that the government has sent to you.
Right, and now all the kids in the schools are going to be doing those once a week. They get reported to the schools. What happens after that, I have no idea.
Yeah. And how many of them are going to actually report to the school instead of just keeping the child home?
Yeah, right.
Or saying, well, go to school, just wash your hands more often.
Right. Yeah. No. I mean, right now we see a reduced number of new confirmed cases if you look at the state data. But again, if you have 200 that week, it could be 1,200. You don't know. Misleading information is dangerous, and what I didn't want to do is put out numbers that we're going to make people think that this is all over, we're done, COVID's, it's resolving itself, and we can go about our business. Well,
are we going to have another variant? Who knows, really?
You're always going to have other variants.
I mean, it's just like the flu. There's different strains every year, so I think they'll call it a strain, maybe not a variant. Yeah. So, what else? What else do they say? What else? God.
Now I have read some scientific research on this, so I think there are part truths to this. Masks don't work.
Okay. So, in the very
go for
it. Okay, so there's masks are a barrier. Masks are preventing some transmission. So the analogy in the very beginning when the mask argument started, I mean, year and a half ago. So you're standing in a grocery store, both people, no pants on. One decides to pee, the other one gets wet. So the first one puts pants on, pees. Does the other one get wet? How about if the other one put pants on and but now they're both wearing pants, guy pees. Nobody's getting wet except the guy. It's a barrier. It's logical. There's masks exist for a reason.
But supposedly now this virus, they're microns in size, and now the barrier, unless you glue it up against your face.
Right.
I mean,
and now the facts are, and part of the reason why rescinding the mandate is mother agency again, KN95 or N95 well-fitted mask. You have to get fitted for these things. So the other thing, even with the surgical masks, when we were doing that, surgical mask. So when you have surgery, do you want your doctor to not wear a mask? Does this need to go away now too because it won't work? I mean, somewhere it says they work somehow.
That's to keep his spit when he talks from entering your cavity when you're cut open.
It's a barrier.
Yes.
Either way. So I never actually went out, nor did any of the board, because we all know it's not the be-all to end-all. And, okay, so, yeah, you can still get COVID. I mean, I had an example one time, a member of the police department in the very beginning said, masks don't work. Okay. I said, masks don't really protect you because you still have other mucous membranes that are running around that stuff can get into. I just smacked the microphone. But so the example was this. He was like, well, no, it should protect you if you wear a mask. I said, okay, I had a spray bottle of water. This was my example. I'll never be able to do this to a police officer again. I said, put your mask on. Now I don't have mine on. And achoo, right in your face. And I sprayed him right in his face. I said, did you get water in your eyes? He said, yeah. I said, well, then you got COVID. There you go. So it was always supposed to be a means of preventing transmission, not protection. So now I see people running around wearing masks when there's no mandate. And I say, what a saint you are that you really care that much about other people that you don't want to give them your COVID. Or do you just not want to put lipstick on? Or do you just not like smelling stinky people? I mean, the only reason to wear a mask is to prevent transmission, but people still think it's protecting them. And that's also misinformation that's dangerous.
All of a sudden, after a year and a half, cloth masks are no good.
Right. Yeah, they were always supposed to be this.
But, you know, we're at the end now. Oh, by the way.
Now that the cloth mask makers have made their money.
You know, I use this the surgical one. I've been using those since the beginning because I'm actually a shallow breather, and I have issues getting my oxygen level up, and those worked for me. You know, because I tried a bunch of others. So I can see how there might be others out there who have legitimate problems with the mask, but I learned to deal with it by using the surgical mask. Now,
do we still have the mandate in the schools?
Well, that's coming up on the list here, Kathy.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah, because there's something else coming up that we're going to
She
lead
asked
into.
the question. You might be able to get to that. Do your lead in.
Do you want me to answer it?
Well, it was addressed to the Board of Health, actually, what the answer to that is, if you were paying attention.
Yeah. Do you want to?
School committee is going to be taking advice from the Board of Health as to extending the mask mandate beyond the 28th or not, because right now you're following DESI. During the last Board of Health meeting, or during last week, you said, okay, we're not going to have a mask mandate in the school. We're going to follow DESI to the 28th.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Kathy, having said that now, go ahead.
All right. School mandate. What's happening?
Okay, so I just got to back up a little bit because see how this is all over the place and why I wish people would call me and just ask the question. It's a real quick explanation. Before we did the mask mandate for indoor public places, we did a mask mandate for all schools in Westfield because the Diocese of Springfield, in their infinite wisdom, decided not to abide by any sort of mandate, and they are not required and they're not under DESI, so they didn't want to do it. So we said, well,
okay,
here we go.
Yep.
Mask mandate in all Westfield schools, public, private, and parochial, across the board.
Yeah.
Put your masks on, St. Mary's. Thank you. And after they refused to do that, by the way, they had a huge outbreak and had to close the school. So, meanwhile, public schools were open because they had a mask mandate. All right. We can argue that all day long, but we put that into place, all schools. And then at the last meeting, when we rescinded the indoor public place mandate, I asked them to also consider rescinding the all schools in Westfield mandate. So there was a little bit of discussion about that, and they said, let's keep it on until the 28th, just like DESI, to be consistent. And after that time, it'll be rescinded, just like DESI. Also, in speaking to the school district, they have opted into the testing program so that the kids who opt in, send a little sign slip from their parents in, receive a test kit every other week with 2 tests in it. They test on Sunday, and then if they're negative, they go to school. There's no more contact tracing. So they've opted into that program, which means with that, and also hearing from the individuals in the administration, they don't want to continue the mask mandate.
Okay, so where do you see that really now ultimately happening on March 1st?
So I think, I guess it's I guess it would be up to the school committee,
which
right,
has a special meeting on Thursday.
Okay,
Right.
and so I haven't. They haven't reached out to hear my opinion on it yet. It would be go consistent with DESE, just like all along. You go with your mother agencies, and you follow that lead. Otherwise, what's the rationale? What scientists are you relying on to say that you need to continue a mask mandate?
Can somebody tell it to Springfield Public Schools?
Yeah, they decided to continue.
Yep, for another month.
Well, I mean, why? I just and the worst part of all of this is the fact that the amount of time that I've wasted talking about masks when we could be doing other things, and the distraction that this has all created to the department, unbelievable. I'm done with this. I'm done with the mask thing.
Yeah, I know I took you away from a real good breakfast to be in here today.
No, I mean, I like to at least clear the air, and so thank you for giving me the platform, but it's just too much information.
Speaking of clearing the air, I have one more item, and then we'll just free ball. And if I need to go over a little bit, I'm going to go over a little bit. My next guest coming up would be more than understanding with that. It is required for you to have public participation, and you didn't do that when you enacted the mandate.
Yeah. Okay, so the way it went was...
I did my homework here.
I know the answer to that question because I've been doing so many damn meetings.
Well, you were there, Pete, right? So,
I know, but I've been doing so many meetings. I know the answer to that question.
So the way it worked was this. We had a regularly scheduled Board of Health meeting with public participation. Everybody, they had their 15 minutes, 3 minutes apiece, and no decision was made at that time about whether or not to require a mandate. So we decided to have, after kind of observing the metrics and everything, the very next week, had a special meeting for an action item to take a vote on whether to mandate masks in indoor public places. At those special meetings, public participation is not required. That's according to our law department. We didn't make this up.
Okay.
Now, the reason for not having it at that time was because everybody that wanted to participate was already there at the week before meeting and would have said the same thing. And what we don't like is filibustering. So the board's there to make a decision and to make a vote to decide to pass it or not, and that's what they did. Totally allowed to do that. Should there have been public participation? Maybe if we were able to meet in person, that would have been a thing. It would have been hard to avoid having it in person, but it's certainly not required at a special meeting.
And I know that a lot of these folks may have gone to the city council meeting the following week, which really didn't happen because of a few events that took place at that meeting.
Which I describe as the perfect example of civil disobedience done properly.
Yeah. But another meeting. I don't remember if it was the one right immediately after that where they had public participation and they extended it and everyone got up to have their say with the masks, thinking now that the city council or even the mayor can overturn what the Board of Health has done.
Yeah, so one important thing, glad you brought that up, is that the public health system needs to be insulated from politics. It just has to. It always has been that way. Ever since they, did you know Paul Revere was the first health director in the Commonwealth? Did you know that?
I didn't know that.
Well,
We did not.
Keep the ships in the harbor with the people that have smallpox.
Yeah.
Keep them there. That's a public health measure. That was the first one. So
Had
it been for politicians, they would have went, let them come on board. I'll get them to vote for me, and then we're good. So one of the things at the city council meeting that Councilor Flaherty said is that I don't want politicians making health decisions for me. And so I'll use him as the example. Who do you want to take your health advice from in this city? Councilor Flaherty or the Board of Health or me? Right? He knows what he doesn't know. And he doesn't want to be in that position. Politicians are purposely not involved in public health policy. It just can't be that way. So no mayors, no city councilors. I mean, governors can do it if they declare a state of emergency, but they have public health advisors and councils. So, and back to the whole thing, everybody in public health knew this was coming. For over 20 years that I've been involved with public health, you knew it was coming. Some pandemic, some epidemic, you just hoped it wouldn't happen in your tenure, and it did. But to that point, at least in Westfield, we were ready for it. We had already been through this before. We've been training for these things for over 20 years. So, you know, you had, remember all the other ones? H1N1, you had
bird flu, mad cow,
Ebola, right? All of these things. These were real discussions that were being had behind the scenes. Like, what are we going to do if this manifests itself in our community? So it's not like we don't know what we're doing. And that was the most frustrating and disheartening part. You know, I've lost people in my life that I've known for 25 years that'll never talk to me again about a freaking mask mandate. Come on.
All right. That's all I did with my homework. You got a soapbox right now, brother.
Okay.
All right. And you have all the time in the world. Don't even look at the clock.
So back to the communication part. Another disheartening thing. We're all fellow residents. I live in Westfield. I want to have conversations with people. I want to know what you know, and you should want to know what I know. This is our specialty. This is what we do. Like, again, it's like not trusting a fireman to know how to put out a fire. That's what they do. That's what they're trained for. You don't know how to do that. Please, next time this happens, if you want to avail yourself of the truth, then have a conversation with people. I mean, it's great. At my luxury at 9 o'clock at night, I've had a couple cocktails. I'm going to send out a scathing, horrible, awful email. Good for you. But you're not getting a response. So call me. I'll call you back. If we can get together in person, even better. I wished I could have had an in-person educational session when it all started to go bad. And we weren't allowed to do that because, well, there's public meeting laws too, so you have to be careful. But, you know, through all of this, I just saw the worst part of people. And when I got criticized for calling people keyboard warriors, I could have said a lot worse because I was called a lot worse. The board was called a lot worse. We have emails that we've saved that are vile, vicious, vile. Members of our own committee. And
those are all public record forever.
Yeah. Yeah. And phone messages, same thing. People leaving awful, horrible, you know, slanderous.
Just one side thing that just came to my head. If any of these people who have written a real nasty email, if they ever go on to try to do something important, or, I don't know, run for office or get hung up in the courts, excuse me, and someone is really smart and they do a FOIA request, they can get that information.
Right.
They can get that very email that was sent out.
There are so many people. Now, there's also just one last thing I'll say about the communication. There seem to be two factions of the anti-mask people. They're the ones that were professional and civil, and they were expressing their beliefs or their preferences. And, well, okay, that's fine. That's still not public health. Remember, public health is for the public, not for you. You don't like to wear a mask, then don't wear a mask. But don't make it political. Don't make it vile and vicious and angry. And the fact that, you know, you couldn't have members of the community in the worst time, pandemic time that we've ever had, actually come together and be positive and get something done. Instead, we couldn't even go out and do restaurant inspections because we're too busy dealing with, you know, anti-mask stuff. So what do we? I mean, come on, stop it. So I swear there are people that really, this just wasn't for them. They didn't agree with the fact that they should have to wear a mask, them personally or their family. Well, that doesn't mean that your beliefs are what's best for the whole community. That's what we're here for. So step aside and do your thing and don't filibuster. I'm telling you, the distractions were horrible. And I'm actually ashamed of a lot of those people. Not the ones that were civil and, you know, expressed their right to be against wearing a mask. That's fine. But the ones that just showed the worst of their worst, and it was just really one of those things that made you go, what am I doing this for? Why am I here? What, you know, I don't need this. We have better things to do than to sit here and listen to people's own self-interest. And I'm sure when you went home with everything that you dealt with, Chris probably got stressed out too. Of course. Yeah. No, I mean, and it trickles down, and then, you know, it's It's a nonstop stressor. I swear, I feel like I've aged 5 years in the last 6 months.
You look it.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
Is it the gray beard?
Don't listen to that.
Hey,
Joe.
no, it's true. It's true.
You have anything else?
I don't know. I mean, you can poke the bear if you want. Do you have anything else?
Yep. Kathy?
No, I think that just about answers it. And it was the things I was reading online, Joe, I would just say, and I said this to you off air, that when friends of mine have put up something about the mask or not wearing them or they don't work or the CDC, I love it when they throw in the CDC says.
Mm-hmm.
And then I go to the CDC website and I can't, and I'm very good at research.
Yeah.
I can't find that statement anywhere. And unfortunately, I saw that in some people in the community that should know better.
Right. Yeah.
These were intelligent people
Didn't
who
realize
know better.
what a huge population of scientists we have in the city of Westfield. Jeez. I mean, I'm outdone.
I myself have 2 doctorates.
Yeah, see? So you know.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, some sort of ologist.
I have none, but I'm pretty smart.
I have nothing. It is fine for people to have an opinion, but if you have an opinion, I would like you to back it up with some kind of facts. There are opinions we can have for no reason. I can say to you, well, I like the color red, and I can do that. I don't need to back it up with reasons.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm going to say, I don't wear a mask because I believe, I need to have something to back it up. And that's the piece we're missing. People are listening to someone else's story. It becomes just information that's trickling down without something to back it up. If you back it up, then I can say, okay, I go along
And
with
it's
you.
got to be from reputable sources. So this was
does.
the thing that we were getting jammed up with all along. People
You're
will go,
getting anecdotes.
I've done my research, and they're reading from a script.
No, they haven't
making a
done their
statement.
research.
They got their smartphone out while they're sitting on the throne,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. And what's that website that you're reading? You know, we're all gonna die.com? I mean, what is it?
and it's also there's a lot of anecdotal information. Well, this woman had a vaccine and she died from the vaccine. Okay, that's one person out of how many millions? It's just an anecdote. It happens.
Yep. It happens with the flu. Happens with pneumonia every year.
Listen, honey, I'm a polio kid. A year before they had the vaccine, I had polio. And I got to tell you, folks, get your stupid shots.
Yep.
I would have given anything on this planet not to have spent 4 months in a hospital in isolation from my parents, from my sisters, and well, maybe not that part, but anything to have been able to avoid that. And I'm sure people laying in the hospital being intubated now would say the same thing.
Sure, they do.
You know.
Talk to somebody who had it in the beginning before the vaccine. They were the first ones in line when it became available because they knew. So,
I was miserable when I had it.
yeah,
It sucked.
yeah.
Before I let Mr. Rouse go, do you have anything, Pete?
Nope, I'm good.
All right. Did you get everything off your chest?
I kind of did, and again, communicate. All right, emails, they're great for something. I haven't figured out what yet. Maybe an attachment. Send an attachment, a picture. I don't care.
Send a funny cat
But if
picture.
you think you're communicating with people, especially in the municipal world, you need to. We're here to serve the public, engage in conversation. I don't need some sort of diatribe.
And I know who your mother is, and I know you were raised right.
It was. Thanks, Mom.
I'm not so sure about that.
Even if
I
mine's
thought
girl-
he turned out well, all things considered.
Well, she is crazy. But I always say there's crazy bad, there's crazy good, and there's
yep.
crazy great. And so she's crazy great.
And I have another story for you when we're done. I can't repeat it
Oh,
online.
good.
Oh boy.
No.
Oh, boy.
Boy.
All right,
All right.
then we need to take a break.
Yeah, with that, Joe Rouse, I want to thank you for coming in here and clearing up the air.
Yeah, anytime. And people call me. If you don't like what I had to say, call me and tell me.
All right, and catch him next time on The Joe Show.
That's first Wednesday of the month.
You got it.
All right.
Okay.